gym was hot, loud, and cramped. And right here, a 300-pound boxer decided to tell Bruce Lee he was too small to be dangerous. The place was an old commercial fight room tucked behind a street of pawn shops and diners, late 1960s America pressed into its walls. Sweat lived in the wood. Leather, liniment, and stale hand wraps mixed into one stubborn smell that clung to the back of the throat. Dumbbells rang like struck pipe. A heavy bag thudded in steady time, each impact making the chain above it tremble. There was barely room to breathe, let alone move. Men worked shoulders to shoulders between bags and benches, brushing past each other with muttered apologies that weren't apologies at all, just the rhythm of a crowded place where nobody wanted to look soft. Bruce stood near the edge of it, thin frame and plain clothes, no jacket with a team name, no entourage, no announcement. In the harsh overhead light, his shadow looked sharper than he did. His face carried the calm of someone observing rather than performing, eyes taking in footwork, timing, how bodies shifted before fists flew. A conversation died mid-sentence when the big man entered. You didn't have to see him first. You heard him, slow, heavy steps that didn't hurry for anyone. The floor seemed to accept his weight with a dull complaint. Heads turned in practice sequence, quick glance, quick return, like people checking the weather. Someone at a speed bag paused, hands still hovering, as if the air itself had changed. The boxer's shoulders were thick enough to narrow the aisle. His arms hung relaxed, but that relaxation wasn't kindness. It was ownership. He scanned the room and stopped on Bruce like he'd found a stain, not a person, an idea. A few trainees looked at Bruce with curiosity instead of contempt, the way you stare at a quiet man who walks into the wrong bar and doesn't flinch. What's he doing here? Who invited him? Bruce saw the social shape instantly. This wasn't just an athlete. This was the gym's crown, an alpha that stayed alpha by keeping the room small for everyone else. The big man's gaze wasn't searching for a challenge. It was searching for permission to humiliate. Bruce's breathing stayed even. His shoulders remained loose, but his attention sharpened until the noise became useful, every sound a marker. The bag's swing, the metallic clink of a plate, the small squeal of rubber soles on sweaty canvas. Inside, a thought settled without anger. He's already decided who I am, without asking. The boxer moved closer, not rushing, letting the crowd part for him. A couple of men stepped away, instinctive and silent, creating a pocket of open floor. It looked accidental, but it wasn't. It was an arena forming itself out of habit. The big man's mouth curled, not into a grin, but into something colder, public amusement with teeth hidden. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He aimed it so everyone would hear. "Really?" he said, eyes sliding over Bruce's narrow shoulders as if measuring scrap. "You're the dangerous one?" A few nervous laughs flickered and died. No one interrupted. Even the bag strikes slowed, as if the room wanted to listen. Bruce didn't step back. He didn't walk away. He stayed where he was, quiet, in the center of the new empty space, breaking the script without saying a word. The boxer's shadow swallowed the light in front of Bruce, and the heat from his body reached first. An animal presence, confident enough to lean into other people's space. Bruce hadn't come for a scene. He came here the way a craftsman visits another shop, to study tools, not to argue about whose hands were bigger. He'd been watching the rhythm of jabs, the way boxers set traps with their feet, the small shoulder twitch that betrayed a hook before it arrived. Film sets had taught him how quickly people reduced him to a silhouette, foreign, small, hard to place. Fight rooms did the same thing, only louder. This gym was just another room where size tried to speak for truth. The big man moved closer until the air between them felt used up. He didn't square off like a trained fighter. He loomed like a bouncer. His voice stayed casual, which made it worse. "You serious?" he said, looking down as if Bruce were a misplaced kid. "You weigh less than my leg." A few men chuckled, short, uncertain bursts. Not cruelty. Hunger for entertainment. The kind that made decent people pretend they had no choice. Bruce didn't answer right away. He looked at the boxer as a system, not a myth. Wide stance, power planted, slow to start. Shoulders high and tight, punches would be telegraphed. Chin lifted a touch. Confidence, and a blind spot. The boxer mistook Bruce's stillness for surrender and leaned in another inch, violating the last private distance a person has. His breath smelled like coffee and sweat. "You know men train here," he added, half smiling as if offering advice. Bruce's eyes didn't harden. They clarified. "I train here too," he said softly. Not a challenge. A fact. That simple sentence shifted the room. It didn't escalate. It removed the boxer's control of the story. A few heads turned, measuring Bruce again. No swagger, no apology, no performance. Near the ropes, an older athlete, gray at the temples, hands wrapped with the care of someone who'd paid for every mistake, murmured, almost to himself, "Don't touch him." It was more warning than loyalty. It came too late. At the front desk, the trainer, thick-necked, tired-eyed, stayed frozen behind his clipboard. He didn't step in. His silence wasn't neutrality, it was permission. The gym ran on hierarchy, and hierarchy liked public lessons. The boxer's grin widened, enjoying the audience more than the target. He glanced around to make sure everyone saw him choosing the moment. Around them, the usual noise thinned. The bag swings slowed. A jump rope stopped mid-whip and slapped the floor. Even the metal clatter of weights seemed to pause between drops, as if the room had turned its ear. Bruce felt the pressure of being watched, not with hatred, but with expectation. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about every smaller man in that room who'd been laughed off a mat, about every person told their body decided their worth. He kept his posture neutral, no classic stance, no raised guard. Hands low, relaxed, almost careless. It confused the boxer, who was used to opponents either bristling or shrinking. The big man leaned down, bringing his face closer, eyes searching for fear to feed on. Bruce gave him none. And in that brief, tight silence, under the harsh lights between the hanging bags, the gym waited, not knowing it was about to learn a lesson it couldn't unsee. The boxer took one more step and blocked a strip of ceiling light, turning his bulk into a moving wall. He bent at the waist until his face hovered closer to Bruce's, not because he needed to hear, because he wanted to be above him even while crouching. No one spoke. The gym's usual chaos fell into a tight, listening pause. A heavy bag drifted, slow and pendulum-like, then settled, as if it too had decided to watch. The big man smiled with the easy confidence of someone who'd never been punished for taking what he wanted. "Come on," he said, almost friendly. "Just a little shove. Let's see how you handle real work." It was a trap built for the crowd. Refuse, and you were timid. Agree, and you became a joke. Either way, the boxer stayed king, and the room stayed small. Bruce felt the weight of eyes on his back, not hatred, something more complicated, men who'd spent their lives measuring worth in pounds, waiting to see whether the quiet newcomer would confirm what they'd been taught. He didn't feel fear. He felt responsibility, sharp and steady. If he turned this into a brawl, the lesson would be lost in noise. If he backed away, the stereotype would get another win and walk out smiling. He studied micro-movements with the same focus he brought to film blocking. The boxer's weight was creeping forward, loading the front leg like a spring. Shoulders tight, jaw clenched, strength preparing to announce itself. His hands were open, relaxed, ready to grab rather than strike. Power without precision. Bruce's voice was low, almost polite. "All right." The word landed without heat. No grin, no bravado. He added, "Give me a little space." A few people snorted. They had expected shouting, posturing, a show. Instead, they got calm manners in a room built on domination. Men shuffled back half steps, widening the pocket of floor. The arena became clearer. The trainer still didn't move. Bruce stayed neutral, feet under him, not bladed like a boxer, not squared like a wrestler, an in-between stance that looked ordinary until you noticed how balanced it was. His hands hung lower than anyone would teach, palms loose, shoulders soft. He appeared unarmed. The boxer misread that immediately. "Look at him," someone whispered, disbelieving. "He's not even guarding." The distance closed to less than a meter. Bruce could smell the boxer's sweat, hear the minute creak of leather as his shoulders rolled. The big man's tone turned sharper. "You sure you want this?" Bruce didn't answer. He watched the boxer's hips, how they drifted left, setting up a drive. He watched the knees, how they unlocked, preparing to explode. He watched the throat, how the swallow tightened, signaling commitment. Then came the choice that changed everything. The boxer decided not to play. He surged forward, not with a measured push, but with a full-bodied test, mass and momentum, aimed to fold Bruce backward and make the room laugh. His hands shot out, ready to clamp onto Bruce's shoulders, to steer him like furniture. Bruce did nothing at first. He waited through the first inch of movement, the first fraction of weight transfer, letting the boxer declare his line. The room misread the stillness as panic and leaned in, hungry. "He's freezing," another voice breathed. Bruce wasn't freezing. He was letting the attack become predictable. And in the tight space between the boxer's confidence and the moment it would crash into reality, Bruce's body gathered itself, quiet, contained, ready to turn 4 seconds into a permanent memory. The boxer lunged, 300 pounds of certainty, hands wide, shoulders driving forward like a battering ram. He expected Bruce to hop back, to flinch, to become a story the gym could retell at lunch. Bruce didn't move until the last slice of a second. One small step to the side, barely half a foot, pulled him off the line. The boxer's mass kept traveling where Bruce had been, momentum committing him to a path he couldn't rewrite in time. Then the first second snapped shut. Bruce's hips turned a fraction. His fist traveled a distance so short it looked like nothing from the wrong angle. The knuckles that landed into the soft center beneath the sternum, solar plexus, timed to the exact moment the boxer's lungs were full, diaphragm braced, body sure it was about to dominate. Second 2, the strike didn't hit so much as interrupt. Air vanished, not slowly, stolen. The boxer's mouth opened, but the sound that came out was a broken suction, the instinctive gasp of a body that suddenly couldn't find its own breath. Third second, Bruce's palm touched the boxer's chest and guided, not shoved. A light redirection, a steering wheel turned a few degrees. That was enough. With his weight already committed, the big man's forward drive turned into a stumble sideways, as if the floor had slipped under only him. Fourth second, his knees dipped, not from pain alone, but from loss of command. The face that had walked in wearing ownership changed in stages, surprise first, then confusion, then the naked alarm of a man realizing size is not the same thing as control. He bent forward, one hand grabbing at nothing, the other instinctively pressing his own midsection like he could push air back in. His eyes went wide, searching the room for an explanation that wasn't there. The gym went dead quiet. Even the heavy bag, which had been swaying lazily, stopped as if someone had grabbed it. No metal clinked, no rope snapped. The silence had weight, the kind that makes you hear blood in your ears. Somebody near the lockers whispered, almost offended by what they hadn't seen. "What was that?" The boxer managed a rasp, each syllable dragged through a throat that wouldn't cooperate. What did you do?" Bruce's expression didn't change. He wasn't triumphant. He wasn't angry. He looked like a man closing a book after finding the line he came for. "Nothing extra," he said. The big man straightened in small, careful increments, still fighting for air. And as breath returned in shaky pieces, something else arrived with it. Shame. Not the kind that sparks rage, but the kind that drains swagger. He didn't swing again. He couldn't pretend the old story now. Across the room, men stared at Bruce differently, no longer as a curiosity, no longer as an insult waiting to happen. Their eyes carried recognition. A new rule had been written, and it had nothing to do with inches or pounds. Only then did the trainer finally step forward, clipboard lowered, mouth half open, as if he'd been about to intervene earlier and simply forgot what earlier was. Bruce had already shifted aside, giving space, giving the moment somewhere to settle. He wasn't looking for applause. He was leaving the gym the way he'd entered it, quiet, plain, unannounced, except now the room felt larger, as if a wall had been moved back. The boxer stood still, breathing hard, staring at his own hands like they belonged to someone else. He had come to make an example. In 4 seconds, he became one.